Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Islam in Life with me, Raza Ghazim. Which then of the bounties of your Lord will you deny? So says Allah repeatedly in Surah Rahman of the Quran after a number of references to the natural world. The invitation to ponder the purpose of our existence without restriction of thought is regularly provided. But what if that lack of restriction of thought allows the individual to go in a direction that is contrary to the Quranic message? Can the natural world really connect us to Allah?
Islam encourages man to think about the purpose of his being. He is also encouraged to look around him and contemplate about the world and its existence. The Holy Quran often commands believers to ponder. When one looks at the amazing structure of the universe and how everything works so well in tandem, one is forced to acknowledge the exceptional skills of the Maker himself. This indeed is the responsibility of mankind, to be able to see the signs of God through His creation. Nature can also draw us closer to Allah and help us discover the meaning of our existence.
قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانظُرُوا كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ اللَّهُ يُنشِئُ النَّشْأَةَ الْآخِرَةَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ.
We're honored to be joined by our esteemed guest, Professor Tariq Ramadan, to discuss all of these issues. Welcome to the program, Professor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I want to start off by asking that we're being asked in the Quran to actually ponder this relationship and do so without restriction of thought. Why in such a manner? Because it's quite possible for us to actually go in the opposite direction to what the Quran perhaps would like us to go.
Yes, I think that, you started the program with a quote coming from a verse of the Quran in Surah Ar-Rahman, which is essential in our understanding. In fact, the relationship that we have with Allah, the relationship that we have with God, is coming from, in fact, two revelations. There is the written revelation, Al-Quran Al-Kareem, which is coming with signs within it. In fact, when we speak in English, we say verses, but that's not the right translation of ayat. Ayat is signs. And that's very important. Why? Because in fact, the written book is mirroring the other book of the Revelation, which in fact came in the West only after the Renaissance, in the 18th century, talking about the book of the universe. And in fact, the Quran is talking about another book, which is Al-Kitab al-Manshur, which is the deployed book, which is the creation. And the creation has exactly the same as the book. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآثَاقِ آيَاتِنَا. We are going to show them our signs in the horizons and in themselves. So the creation is full of signs. And through these signs, what we have to do, coming from the Quran, getting back to the universe, is to look at the signs that are reminding us of the very presence of the Creator. So there is something here which is a spiritual relationship that we need to keep with the universe, and not only to look at the elements, but to look behind the elements and to understand that every single element is a sign.
You said something about the analogy, I guess, you're making between the book, the Quran, and the book in terms of the universe. Yeah, exactly. So can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by that, and how are the two linked together?
So in fact, the written revelation, the Quran, is talking about the other revelation, which is look at the universe around you. It's full of signs. Who created this? And this is where. Are you going to deny all these signs that there is a creator? Look at yourself. Look at the way you have been created. Look at the universe. Not only the structure, not only the organization, but the beauty of it. So here, what we need to get coming from the Quran is, as much as you try to contemplate, to understand the Quran, the written revelation, you have to contemplate and to try to read the worlds. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Read in the name of your Lord who created. It's also read the universe. Try to get and understand the very meaning of it. And this is why in the clip that we had, the comment that was made about we need to look at the purpose. We need to get the purpose of the creation, and the purpose of the creation for us is we are coming from God, and to God everything will come back. And this is what we find in Surah Ar-Rahman. كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. Everything on earth is going to disappear, and the only thing which is going to remain, it's His face, meaning He is beyond the creation. All these are elements and signs bringing you back to the Creator.
Interesting points that are being made there. What should the relationship, once the human being has actually contemplated all of these things that you talk about, what should that relationship be of the human being with nature? So once he's taken in the beauty, once he's taken in all of the other things that are there to be taken in, how do you interact?
I think that's a very important point, because if you don't get this right, you can behave contrary to the message itself if you don't get this very understanding. And this is what we need to get from the very beginning is, this is here to remind you that God is the Creator, Allah is the Creator, and you have to respect His creation. How are you going to get this? And this is why it's so important. First, to understand that everything around you, it's a call. And this is what we have in the Quran. Ya ayyuhalladhi amanu, O you who believe. So this is a call for you to remember God. Now, having said that, how are you going to deal with it? And this is where you need to understand, and we all need to understand something which is critical and central in the Islamic message, is that we are khulafa fil ard. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I'm going to put on earth a vicegerent. What is the very specific status of this human being? Is that he is there on earth, he can manage the creation, but he has no ownership. The only lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard, means everything on earth and in the heavens belong to God. Everything belongs to God, and all these things belong to God. Now, what we need to understand is that in the name of God, this is why we have Iqra bismi rabbik, in the name, starting with God, that you need to get is everything is here, and this was put at your disposal. سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. He gave you all this. This is at your, you need to use it, and you can use it with one condition. Never deal with the creation against the principles of the Creator. So you have to start by respecting nature. The way you respect the trees, the way you respect nature, the way you respect the species and the animals is the way you are remembering God, in the way you deal with His creation in order to show your respect towards the Creator.
You talk about the idea of managing everything that is there in terms of the creation and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of that, how effective has the management been of the creation?
This is the central ethical message of Islam. And this is where you find the Prophet, peace be upon him, saying, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent but to beautify the good character, meaning your behavior with yourself, with your fellow human beings, but also with nature. So it's not about, only halal, haram, you can do this, you can't do this. Is the world is open, and through your own status, with your brain, with your intelligence, with the fact that you have power over the creation, and you can have potential power to build or to destroy. In the name of these ethical principles that we have, you can manage, you have to take advantage of all what you have, the environment, nature, but you have to respect nature and to serve the Creator through this respecting. And what we see now is completely different. we are forgetting the ethical teachings. We very often come with halal haram. Can I do this? Should I stop? But the very way we have to deal with animals, for example, we are obsessed by the way we slaughter the animals, not the way we have to nurture, we have to protect the life of the animals. At the point when we have something which is ethics of war in Islam, the Prophet, peace be upon him, sending an army and saying, you don't kill women, you don't kill children, you don't kill religious people, and you avoid destroying nature. In time of war, meaning even if you are resisting oppression, you have to be aware of the environment. Where are we now as Muslims? Unfortunately, the consumerist culture is taking over, and we go from being khulafa, from being now to being consumerists and just taking advantage of everything.
So is it even possible to achieve this balance, if you like, in this consumerist society?
In the consumerist society itself, no. If you just are colonized by the consumerist society, what you are expected to do is to take advantage of everything with no limits and no ethics. This is why, if we want to have a contribution in the world today, it's that we have to come with an alternative to this. It's not to try to manage and to adapt to the dominant culture, say, to put a bit more ethics here and there. That's not going to work. This is where the resistance here is to say no. The consumerist culture, the world culture, the economic order now is pushing us to destroy nature, not to respect this nature and to destroy ourselves. All the discussion that we have on global warming, on the discussion that we have about, you know, the nuclear business that we have is just no limits. As long as we are making money and taking some advantage, we can do it. In Islam, that's not possible. So we need to have a contribution in this discussion, and we need to have more Muslim voices coming with so many other voices saying, no, we can't deal with nature the way we are dealing with it today.
I do have some more questions for you, but we do like to keep this show as interactive as possible and really value your opinion. Here is what you sent us this week.
This week we asked, what should be man's relationship to the nature around him? Omi from Sweden said, we have a huge responsibility to the environment around us. We should be in the forefront in respecting and protecting the environment, as this is emphasized in Islam. Hassan from USA said, nature is proof of Allah's existence and His glory. As Muslims, when we see the beauty of nature, we should thank and worship the one and only Allah who has created it all. And Aisha from Norway said, there is so much knowledge hidden in our environment. We need to spend time with nature to uncover the mercy of the Lord hidden in it.
We are almost detached from it, and it's so important. The more closer we get to nature, the more closer we get to Allah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made the whole creation to serve the human being, and human being has to deal with it with the best practice. That's why everyone has to be very peaceful with all creatures.
1 hour of contemplation is worth more than 70 years of worship, and I think that in itself, we just need to contemplate, sit in a park, sit somewhere where it's all natural, green fields and mountains and rivers and lakes, and I think you start contemplating with yourself on how the creation came to be, and I think that in itself brings us closer to Allah.
When everything is so balanced, so perfect, and there's obviously a Lord who has created it, how can others not believe in God?
That's all the comments and the questions we have for this week. If you'd like to have your views or questions featured in the show, be sure to follow us on Facebook or join us on Twitter.
As you saw, you can send us your views and your comments about any of the topics that are being discussed here today. Tariq, I want to start off with that very innocence of youth kind of clip that was actually played, that how can someone not believe in God with everything that's actually available out there in terms of for us to be able to view. And there is this thing that's coming through, that how can we reaffirm our belief in God simply because of the natural world that's around us? How does that come about? How does that logic fit?
Yes, the first question is an important one, because this is where you start understanding that you need to have something which is intellectual humility, and at the same time you try to understand that it's not because you see signs that everybody is going to see the same signs. To the point that you have at the beginning of the Quran something which has to do with the Quran, meaning that this Quran is a revelation, hudan lil muttaqin. It's a guidance for those who are full of this insight, for the people who are having this loving relationship with God. So you are guided if you believe in it. So it's because you are believing in it, that the text is telling you something. And it's exactly the same with the universe. If somebody is rejecting God, he might look at the world and say, oh yes, it might be well organized, but it structures the mind, it doesn't open the heart. So you sometimes have an open heart looking and seeing signs. And we have to be very modest. The people who are, rationally you are rejecting by saying, oh, you don't see the signs. No, because it's not your eyes that are seeing the signs, it's your heart. It's your heart that is becoming blind. This is what we think from a spiritual perspective. So we have to be quite humble in the way we talk about this and say, yes, we agree that some can see and some others are not seeing the same things as we see. And the second thing that it's important is what was said by one of the people in the clip was, it helps you to come close to God. And this is something which is also very important. Why, for example, do we have to pray before the sunrise? Why is it so important during the night to have this? In everything in Islam has to do with time, has to do with very specific, and there is a specific time, for example, in Maghrib, which is very important. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. There is in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of night and day signs for those who are full of insight. Meaning, look at this. If you look at this, there is something which is connecting your heart to nature, because the nature is talking to your heart. So we have to contemplate. There is something which is putting you at peace with your own self. There are signs, and the beauty is very important. And by the way, beauty is very important. Aesthetics has to do with ethics here, because the book is beautiful and the creation is beautiful. These are two beauties talking to your heart. And I think that this is helping us. The problem that we have in our lives today in big cities is that we are disconnected from the time and the space. So it's much more a utilitarian life than a contemplating life. And we need to come back to contemplation.
So one of the things that was said by one of the people, and I think you referred to it as well, this idea that if you go out and sit in space, sit out in the grass and just look around you, you can then begin to connect the things with God and connect yourself to God. That's what you're kind of like referring to. Now, isn't this, some would argue, well, this is all part of the natural cycle that, you mentioned about the day turning into night and so on and so forth. Now, and it's beautiful, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But so what?
Yeah, so what? So that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. When you look at it and you say it's beautiful, so what? This could be the positioning or the understanding of somebody who doesn't believe in God. Say, yes, that's beautiful. Now, when you come with this open heart connected to God, all the signs here are telling you what? This life has a meaning. this creation has a meaning, and you have it in the Quran. الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So those who are remembering God when they stand up, when they are sitting, when they are lying, and then they ponder over all these signs, and what they say at the end, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. So, oh God, you did not create this in vain. There is a purpose. So this connection, when you come with your spirituality, your connection to God is not only you see signs, not only you see beauty, but you see meaning. That's the difference. You don't only see beauty, you see. So when you say, so what? Yes, so what? I'm coming back to you. And all this, it's coming from you, and we are all coming back to you. So I would say here that this is where aesthetics is bringing us to philosophy. And philosophy is what? It's the meaning of life, the concept of human being, that He created us to remember Him, to worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ إِلَّا وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We have been created to worship Him. So creation is something which is helping us to pray in a better way. So this is why you find in the Quran, سَبَّحَ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Everything in heaven and on earth is praising, chanting the glory of God. That's something which is very powerful, which is very far from looking at the world and say, okay, I can manage, I can take advantage of everything. No, we can manage, but we have to serve Him by being ethical in the way we deal with the creation.
We often hear, when we look at the religious kind of texts and the theological kind of comments about nature, singing God's praises all the time. How does an ordinary person kind of tune in to that singing, if you like? Because there's a lot of that kind of perhaps going on, but you can't see it. So how are you supposed to connect to something, that concept?
Yeah, that's a good question. You can't see it if you are in a hurry. That's the point. Think about your relationship with time. Contemplating means that what you are doing is to take time to reconnect with the very essence of things. The problem with our life today is that we are in a hurry. And look at the Quran. هَؤُلَاءِ يُحِبُّونَ الْعَاجِلَةِ. They like things to be quick. They like to run. Take time. So why do we pray 5 times a day? Take time. Why are we asked to wake up early in the morning? Take time. Don't only use time to do what you have to do, but use time to be who you need to be. It's time to be, not time to do, which is completely different. This is a completely different way of dealing with time and space, when you are not looking at the space, thinking about what are the benefits, the profit that I can make with the space around me. No, in which way the space is helping me to be a better human being. So this is something that everybody should do in her or his life. Taking time to contemplate, why are we having dhikr? Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar. Allah. Why do we take this time? Coming back to ourselves. Nothing to do, everything to ponder over. This is what we need to understand in our life. So we have to resist this utilitarian relationship that we have with time and space, and understand that our relationship with space and time should be also a way for us to reconnect with our being, with the nafs inside.
Very briefly, one criticism some people might make about this connection with nature is that cause and effect, science can explain how things happen in nature. So for those people, is it really the concept of a divine being, in a sense, becomes useless? So is there any use for the concept of a divine being when science can actually explain all of these things in very scientific ways?
When, for example, scientists go from how it works to having the arrogance to say why, this is where the arrogance is to respond to the question why. From a religious perspective, go wherever you want, as much as you want, about how it works. It will never solve the solution or give you the answer to why. and why is God. This is what we have from all the religious traditions.
Interesting points. One can discuss or argue about the relevance of the connection of human beings to nature. To what extent does that or should that relationship bring human beings closer to their Creator? The Quran oozes confidence in the way that it asks the human being to reflect on all the ornaments of nature. One cannot say that the narrative provided by the Quran is not compelling. That's all the time we have for today. I would like to thank Professor Tariq Ramadan for joining us, and I would like to thank all of you at home for watching. Until next time, goodbye.